Hello, anybody who's watching this. Welcome to my reaction to WTF is Warhammer 40k. Full beginner's guide plus every major faction lore history by I don't know, Lutin09. This video was recommended to me after what was it? It was the Warhammer video. It was a review for a Oh, it's Mandalore. Mandalore's video about Warhammer Mechanicus. Right? Ow. Don't touch me. You filthy paws. So I'm gonna watch it and see what kind of lore is going on here. See, it's divided quite a lot, so that's nice. I'm not gonna look at that, not spoil what he's gonna talk about. You being an asshole, so you're going on the ground. Alright. If you have a video for me to react to, you can use the link in the description below, or use the comments, because I'm desperate for content. Let's start. Wow, he has an intro even. Siege Studios, okay. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. It's 2022. The Emperor of Men, the Carrion Lord, for whom 1,000 souls die every day, human blood, human flesh, the stuff of which the Imperium is made, forget the promise of the progress and understanding, for there is no peace among the stars, the universe is a big place, and whatever happens, you will not be missed. That was just long enough for me to read. 40k.
Welcome to the first in my series of primers focused on the universe of Warhammer 40,000. If you're watching this, you may well be brand new to the all-encompassing hobby we call 40k. But what is it? What's it all about, and why should you consider looking into it any further? Well, for one reason, in recent times, people's appetites have been reawakened to highly immersive TV series like Game of Thrones, or movie franchises with a decent backstory. 40k goes considerably far beyond these examples. It is one of the biggest miniature wargames in the world, and features an ever-evolving story that expands in written text, video games, and of course its original and arguably most important feature, the miniatures and its tabletop game. It is created and owned by Games Workshop, a UK-based company producing tabletop games and associated materials.
Oh, UK-based. I didn't even know that. Warhammer has one of the richest histories, and also another game with war in the name, Warcraft. I think Warcraft started as a game, right? But also, at this point, there's a lot of lore. War is just popular, I guess.
Now, I will cover elements of 40k as briefly as I can today, but I won't skimp on detail just for the sake of time. It's as to the point as I can make it, but if you want to know more about specifics, here on my channel I've covered in detail some of the core background areas of the game, which is continuing to expand. I'll also be continuing to produce these short primers to the world of 40k, and I'll also be continuing to make the longer form content which is featured regularly here on the channel.
Okay.
Often referred to by those already consumed by Warhammer 40,000 as the hobby, 40k is not one thing to one person. It is a highly detailed narrative spanning multiple empires, from world-ending galactic campaigns to lowly individual soldier stories. It is a series of usually middle-of-the-road video games with a few standout gems. It's a hobby of addictive miniature painting and crafting, and it is a tabletop wargame now established for over 30 years. It has spawned a variety of smaller games designed to be played without acquiring a huge army, games like Space Hulk, Necromunda, and...
Why did he jump without a helmet? That's such a bad idea to do. Why did he jump without a helmet?
And these often require only say 6 to 10 pieces per side and are very accessible for new players, whereas standard Warhammer 40,000 tabletop may require larger armies with many pieces. Now, before we come to the lore, it is worth looking at the original tabletop game, as this will give you a better understanding of just everything about it.
Okay, because I'm very interested how is the game played, actually. I kind of have an idea how it looks. I've seen the miniatures before, but how is it being
If you've never
played?
seen or encountered a tabletop game, this is not important, it's actually very simple. Usually 2 players will engage in a battle laid out on a table at your home or a gaming venue. The area of play will be set with terrain pieces, often crafted and painted by the players, and they will alternate turns moving their miniature soldiers or vehicles and will resolve engagements through random dice rolls according to specific rules and combinations of preset unit stats. There may or may not be a mission for one side to achieve, and these games can be highly strict or open to player interpretations. Players will usually paint their miniature soldiers for use on the battlefield, and these can be in a variety of factional designs and colours. Some people prefer their involvement in 40k to be focused entirely on this hobby of painting, designing and modifying these miniature units. And this part of 40k can be just as all-consuming as the lore or the tabletop. Some may choose to split their time between each part, or devote all their hobby time to one piece of the whole 40k hobby, be that the lore, tabletop, or the painting designing element.
Okay.
Now comes the challenge for me, summarising 40k. So Warhammer 40,000 is set in the distant future, a future beset by galactic war from a skirmishing city turf war level through to planetary conquest and system-wide campaigns fought through its space and planets. It is far more pessimistic than most other deep lore universes, and also regularly borders on what you would describe as space horror. Now 40k is primarily focused around humanity, which has through many thousands of years achieved an
This was recommended to me by ETL I just want to say that because I want to give credit.
unimaginable level of technology, and then lost the majority of this zenith through a devastating war. Humanity
just
after
didn't
this
look up the
ancient
name
war
before.
was left broken and fragmented across the galaxy. It would be later reunified by one godlike individual known as the Emperor of Man, and he would set in motion the new order for mankind known as the Imperium of Man. But a devastating civil war known as the Horus Heresy would befall mankind before the Emperor could complete his goals for humanity, and he would instead now become a living corpse enshrined on Earth or Terra. Humanity would become shattered by this civil war, and after a slow, painful recovery, it has become for the longest time a stagnant civilization. Suffocating under its own bureaucracy, the Imperium has begun making the smallest steps toward advancement in the most recent days of its history, but it still stands as a strange juxtaposition of ancient tech that is beyond the comprehension of many of its citizens. It is a weak and precarious civilization, simultaneously able to wield immense military power. Humanity itself, through thousands of years of conflict with alien races who are more often than not excessively hostile, has become a highly xenophobic race. It views almost all other races as needing...
I'm gonna say it now, 5 minutes in, but I'm probably not gonna talk as much so I can receive the information better.
...to be exterminated, and has almost no morals or ethics as to how this is to be achieved. The galaxy-spanning empire of humanity is essentially a totalitarian state that worships the Emperor of Man. The Imperium of Man has large, if not complete, control over its citizens, including many aspects of their lives, economy, social life, education, private lives, science, and indoctrination into its ideology. Any who are not seen to be a follower of the Emperor may and will be persecuted as heretics, and this is often largely open to interpretation and leads to large-scale abuses of power and
Sounds like Russia in a couple
the
of
Imperium
years.
uses this deeply entrenched worship and imperial ideology to control and mobilize mass populations of its citizenry for its armies like the Imperial Guard and Imperial Fleet. It also will utilize its citizens to fulfill whatever role is needed. These roles can, and often are, fairly unpleasant, especially when the rule of law is often severe and absolute. Humanity also wields in its arsenal the Emperor's greatest gift, the military sledgehammer known as the Imperial Astartes. These are the iconic Space Marines, genetically enhanced superhuman warriors who represent the pinnacle of human modification and military power. Their forces have access to some of the most powerful weapons and force multipliers humanity wields. Much of this tech is ancient and requires careful care and repair by specialists dedicated to retaining this critical knowledge. But as powerful as humanity is, even with its small progression in its...
I like that in not in games, just in lores, where it's a futuristic tech, at least for our standards. Like it's a tech that we have no idea how to build in reality. But in the games, fuck, but in some things, not necessarily games, just some things lore, it's an ancient tech. I like that.
Most recent times, it still stands on the edge of annihilation by various alien races or entities. Humanity somehow has survived to this point despite being on an almost permanent risk of complete destruction and forced extinction. Within the lore, this has nearly happened on multiple occasions, and what is
Don't touch the mic.
left of humanity now in the Imperium of Man are the remnants of those survivors, a highly ignorant, fearful people in a fairly constant state of decay where critical technological information is often lost. The Imperium and humanity's primary goals are to locate lost technology from the zenith period of mankind, known as the Dark Age of Technology, otherwise referred to as the Golden Age. It also focuses upon the continued defense and expansion of its territories, and of course the extermination of all alien races, known collectively as the Xenos.
Okay.
Because humanity has become so violently and ignorantly xenophobic in the far future, it also has no qualms about committing planetary levels of genocide. If you're not human and don't worship the Emperor, then you are the enemy, a heretic, and must be exterminated. Diplomacy is almost not a thing for the Imperium, and the usual recourse is to just shoot on sight. In fairness though, there was a time where humanity had attempted a more diplomatic approach, but this over time has just disintegrated, with most of its contact with aliens resulting in some kind of conflict. It now simply believes all other life must be extinguished, or at the very least dominated and enslaved for work or experimentation. These cases are usually quite rare. There are 6 other races that are seen as the enemy.
This kind of reminds me of Mass Effect. If Mass Effect went wrong, it would become this. If humanity, after a Turian war, I believe, just started despising other races instead of working with them, this would become it. Except for ancient tech.
Of humanity. Any of these factions can be played by you within the tabletop game of 40k, or models for collecting and painting. Some players will dedicate themselves entirely to one faction, building it up, fleshing it out to the limit of their model making ability, and others may have multiple armies of different factions. The Necrons are a very ancient race, strange creatures that appear like metallic skeletons. They're actually formed of living metal. They span the galaxy and are in a continuing state of awakening from their tombs after many thousands of years of sleep. They seek to rebuild their empire and dominate the galaxy. One of their key abilities is that of reanimation. They can reassemble themselves after death and fight on. They're also generally mindless automatons. How this came to be is another story. The Games Workshop has seen fit to recently rename.
I'm gonna assume it's also like ancient text, like an ancient civilization that went full on robotics and AI and made all the people of that race into robots. Or maybe it's a situation with Geth in Mass Effect, which is that they were created maybe to even serve the race, but then the race was annihilated and they kept living. I don't know. Living, but they're kind of robots.
Name some of its units, largely it seems for legal reasons, but since forever this faction has been known as the Eldar. More recently it is known as the Eldari, but basically it's the Eldar. These are derived from the elves of many more fantasy games and are basically space elves. Despite this quite simplistic analogy, the Eldar have a rich and tragic lore. Because of past disasters that have left the Eldar with no homeworlds to speak of, they now travel the galaxy in vast ships.
Okay, I'm gonna ask. If somebody knows kind of similar video to the lore of Warcraft, I wanna watch that. Because Warcraft's lore is so weirdly hilarious.
Known as craft worlds.
I just want
the Eldar wield powerful weapons, but are generally physically weak, and they also have immense arrogance towards other races. Their defining feature, and to some degree their biggest flaw, is that the Eldar are very powerful when it comes to psykers and psychic abilities drawn from the warp. The Dark
Okay.
Eldar are essentially space pirates who live lives of excess and sadistic torture porn.
Didn't mean to pause after that, but is there a universe where there are elves or elf-similar creatures that doesn't have dark elves? I don't think I know one.
Anyone who looks like they're about to be captured by the Dark Eldar is rarely something that you would want to contemplate.
I guess there could be one.
Suicide would generally be significantly preferable.
There could be one, but universe where there isn't that much lore, that's why there is not.
A faction
Maybe,
of
I
many
don't know.
faces and contradicting goals, Chaos is as its
Chaos.
name describes, and it originates from the parallel dimension known as the Warp. And this dimension is a reactive plane of existence that absorbs the most powerful emotions and desires of mortal creatures. The reactive immaterium would lead to the birth of entities of godlike power, the Chaos Gods. They each focus on specific mortal desires. Khorne is the god of blood, representing war, rage, and hatred. Tzeentch is the changer, representing ambition, scheming, conspiracy.
When the line is spoken, blood for the blood god, is that the blood god that they talk about?
Rage and hatred. Tzeentch is the changer, representing ambition, scheming, conspiracy, and sorcery. Nurgle
And I kind of want to see the bone throne, but I'm not sure if that's a literal thing. Bones for the bone throne.
is the plague god, representing mortality, morbidity, and despair. And Slaanesh is the god of lust,
Of
greed,
course.
excess, pleasure, pain, and perfection. The continuing desires and emotions of the galaxy's inhabitants sustain these entities. However, they also reach out into the mortal realm through their manifested entities made from the warp known as demons. And these hellish creatures are enough to send ordinary citizens insane on sight. They're backed by
they look quite
traitors to the
disgusting.
Imperium, the corrupted Chaos Space Marines. The gods of chaos and their agents can also infect the minds of mortals, and often cults and worshippers may spring up on planets across the Imperium. This is again one reason why the Imperium of Man is so ruthless about purging heretics. While chaos itself in the material world appears as one enemy that simply wages war, it is in fact in an internal conflict within itself.
That's a
Each of
big
the chaos
hat.
gods fights for domination over the others, and this occupies the majority of their focus and energy. Each god's ultimate goal is complete domination of the Immaterium, a goal which seems unattainable and dangerous to their own existence were it to come to pass. Chaos is one of the most varied and pervasive forces in 40k.
He said that each god wants to dominate. Does that mean they don't work together or not? Like, if there are two gods, I don't know, on the same planet or whatever, will they fight each other as well as anything else there?
And has many forces operating under its
Planet
banner.
universe, I don't
Some
know.
dedicated to a specific god, others that simply worship chaos undivided.
There we go, that works.
Now everybody knows the orcs, right? Middle-earth and all that crap. Not these orcs. These are more Mad Max Fury Road crossed with British football hooligans, and then you're in the right ballpark.
I can draw a parallel with these orcs with goblins from Warcraft. Just as shitty engineers, but their technology somehow works.
Also in space. Space orcs are likely a genetically designed species focused for hyper-violence and to be almost impossible to permanently exterminate. They are as hilarious as they are dangerous, and their entire society focuses around casual violence. The
look like
orcs, though, are
goblins.
also probably the
Been
most
below.
sunny and optimistic of all races, strangely. Their genetic disposition sets them to see things as generally good and enjoyable, especially when it comes to fighting. And they never really see failure as a negative, because it means you just get to have another go later. They also operate more on instinct by design than learned knowledge, and their willpower becomes more powerful the more orcs are present, meaning when they are collected en masse, they can literally will things to be true by collective belief. They also have a strange ability to just cobble together vehicles and weapons from scrap. They also have no real governing structure. Leaders are chosen by progressively being better at smashing their rivals' heads in, until an orc eventually reaches the position of being a war boss. When orcs collect in huge numbers, they may launch a massive campaign of raiding and attacking anything that's not orc by launching a warg, essentially a huge, no-holds-barred slaughter fest. Anything in the way, best dig in or get the hell out.
Alright.
The Tau are one of the newer races and are fast learning that the galaxy is not a friendly place. The Tau operate similarly to the Orcs on a more optimistic level, but that's about as far as their common ground with the Orcs goes, because the Tau exist on the fringe of the Imperium and are unusual as they actively encourage other races to join their cause. They collectively follow an ideology known as the greater good. This is their guiding principle that working together is better than working against one another, as this leads to a stronger, more peaceful society. However, anybody who disagrees with this best prepare for war. To be fair though, the Tau do usually attempt significant levels of diplomacy before declaring their target a lost cause.
I'm assuming that even one dialogue for this universe is a significant level of diplomacy. Just trying to talk. If you manage to say hello to another race, I think it's a significant achievement.
It's largely focused around technology and ranged combat, something often mocked and derided by their enemies. The Tau themselves are comparatively weak and use other races absorbed into their faction to fight in close quarters.
Okay.
Tyranids are an unusual exception to all previous Xenos. They do not operate on an ideology, a political structure, or debatably a single leader. They are the most Xenos of Xenos and have begun a steady invasion of the galaxy. They are presumed to have arrived from beyond the borders of the known galaxy and are hostile in the extreme. They do not wield any technology as we would understand it, or their ships, forces and weapons are biological in origin. Tyranids are one of the most nightmarish factions within 40k. Their singular goal is biomass, that is to strip planets of all biological and mineral materials, leaving them barren, dead husks. They assault planets with extreme prejudice and will not cease their assault unless they are damaged to a point where their acquisition of biomass becomes negative to that being expended. They use all material to birth their forces on their vast bioships and recycle their own units by dissolving them back into the pool of biomass, which then they draw to create anything else they may need. They absorb the genetics of all that they encounter and use this to evolve and create more hostile and efficient creatures and biomachines to achieve their goal. They may also seed and infect planets ahead of time to often use the planet's own inhabitants against themselves when the Tyranids arrive to destroy the world. The Tyranids are controlled en masse by something called the hive mind. This is essentially a broadcasted collective consciousness that enables them the powerful skill of being able to operate as one, but made up of millions of individual entities across a planet. The Tyranids are horrific, seemingly unstoppable, and have already wrought terrible destruction upon many others across the galaxy. Many rumour that their already devastating campaigns are only the initial scouting parties to the Milky Way galaxy, and if this is true, the Tyranids could be the ones to end everything.
Alright.
While not wanting to touch on the subject of psychic power too strongly in this video, many factions in 40k feature what are known as psychers. These are essentially individuals who can wield what you might describe in other universes as magic powers. Some factions have strong psychers and others have none, and these powers are drawn from the parallel dimension known as the warp or the immaterium. Individuals who can use these powers do so at considerable risk, as the warp is an unstable and dangerous realm. The relationship between real space and warp space is a complicated one and can...
Is this orc... not this. Is this orc using... Is he a psyker? He's using a like magic? Or is he being attacked by it? I can't tell. But it would be interesting if orcs could or could not use
dangerous realm. The relationship between real space and warp space is a complicated one and can affect many aspects of life in the far future, but this is something best covered in another video.
Okay.
The takeaway for you today is that Warhammer 40,000 is a world of vast-scale warfare and complex interfactional and internal factional power struggles. 40k is by its very nature often absurd to the extreme. Sometimes this can be somewhat detrimental to its own narrative, because when everything is supersized and extreme in the extreme, suddenly everything looks kind of the same, and then it becomes arguably less impressive. However, 40k just owns its own absurdity, and it's something that you just have to roll with and suspend your disbelief. For many who are obsessed with 40k, the hyper-violent, xenophobic, genocidal nature of its occupants is largely a source for much dark humour, most people that are into Warhammer, they don't take it too seriously. But it is also fun to take things in 40k very seriously, because it contains so much detail. But simultaneously, there are many memes and pure nonsensical comedy that comes from 40k because of just how extreme it is. The classic It Sounds Like Heresy being one such example, whereby anyone who dissents from the official line of thinking is declared a heretic and executed on the spot. It's one that I enjoy using all the time in the comments. And the key theme of 40k is purely about war. The lore is a vast, all-encompassing backdrop that stands on its own, but 40k for itself is all about the galactic wars that are unending. It's focused this way because it represents the background for a tabletop war game that is surprisingly about factional war. 40k itself operates on a fairly healthy dose of irony. Much of the events and organizations, forces and individuals often are the result of half-truths or pure indoctrination, and some of those that are held up as heroes are not what they appear to be, and as usual the context of events are very important, but many things can end up being actually quite subjective. The fact that the Imperium itself has, through its devout worship of the Emperor, now has its state religion embedded in almost everything it does, which is hilarious when you consider the Emperor of Man set out to eradicate religion from humanity entirely. Warhammer 40k
Jesus, that sounds like Russia.
Historical events and ideology.
I want to touch on this a little bit because in recent years, like I don't know, last 10 years, the religion's been like pushed down everybody's throat. Like they're trying to make mandatory classes in school to people to study. Well, not just religion, Christianity. And then like saying that we won the World War II, or not really World War II in Russia, mostly counts the part where Russia's been attacked and then the Germany's been defeated. Ow! You! Which is Great Homeland War, something like that. You can look it up, I guess. I don't know how to translate it better, but it's from 1441 to 1445, from June 22nd to June 22nd, 1941 to May 9th, 1445. Why am I talking about this? People are saying, like people of church and like of religion and stuff are saying that we won the war because like we were believers in God, like God, I don't know, God was on our side. I don't know if anybody said that, but the main point is that we believed in God, we had faith in God, that's why we won. And they try to put it as truth, while the truth is that religion was pushed away in like, I don't know, like in the 20th century, it was pushed back by Stalin, by other people in power. Religion was nothing. Actually, the Germans had more faith. Like Russia was around like, I mean USSR, not really Russia, but was around 50-50 between believers and atheists, while Germany was like 90% believers. But no, for the modern church, it's because believers were that, and I just hate that, and hate that it's not a choice for you to believe in God anymore. It's just they trying to make it not a choice. It's so fucking stupid. I hate that. How can you believe in God when his believers make themselves to be these assholes? And especially that, stop, don't hit the mic. Especially that like not churchgoers, but like main people in church drive like fucking Mercedes, the very expensive fucking cars, while people who believe in God and who go like to church every day or every week, wherever, they have to work for no money, while they just say, that's it, God is speaking through me. Fuck off.
It also borrows
I had to
heavily
vent, I'm
from
sorry.
other settings like Dune, 2000 AD, Lovecraftian influence, obviously Tolkien, and even older texts like Milton's Paradise Lost and the Divine Comedy with Dante and the Inferno. 40k has
I love that
continued to
story.
be fleshed out over time,
I
and
need
it
to read the
shows
book
no
someday.
signs of abating. If anything, it's moving forward at a faster pace
Dante's
than
Inferno.
ever. It is a universe that has consumed me for some 30 years, and I highly recommend that you allow the darkness of the far future to enter your life. You may live to regret it, but you will undoubtedly.
Wait, no. Dante's Inferno is I think just the name of games in the anime. How's it God comedy? No. Stop! Godly comedy? I can't translate it, whatever.
Enjoy it. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, if you have a suggestion for what my next 40k primer should be, tell me in the comments. If you want to learn more about Warhammer 40,000, check out the video on the end screen to the left, or my collected playlist of content to the right. This is Luton. I'll see you in the next one.
It's fucking 2 minutes before the end screen will appear. Camouflage is the color of fear. I have no need to hide from my foes. I have no fear of death. It's you, right? You have no fear of death, you little shit. Just not. The only thing you're scared of is mechanics. Like a microwave or a washing machine. Definitely a vacuum. There you go. I have no fear of death. My colors I wear openly, they are louder than any words. I am proud to live. I am proud to die. Carib Cullen of the Red Scorpions. Brigade the Great Devourer. Tyrannid Biofarms and Magos. Oh god. Hour and 13 minutes. And it's part 1. No. I'm not doing that now. If you recommend something like that in the comments, I'm 99% sure that I will not do a reaction that long. But if you use the donation link and then like you pay me for it, I will feel obligated to do it. So just a heads up. I'm like, since this fucking shit arrived, I can't really film. I would struggle to film a 40-minute-year-old. 40-minute-year-old? What the fuck? 40-minute long video. I would struggle to react to that because it's 40 minutes video with me pausing and intros and outros. It'll probably take 50 minutes. I don't know. This is 22 and I'm already doing. It's already 33 minutes. Ow! Stop! Stop! Run away! Okay, he didn't hear me. Anyway. Stop! See what I'm talking about? Maybe if I would do that, I'll edit. Are you okay? Hey. Yeah, I know you're attacking me. Wait for it. Are you okay? I think he jumped and hit his eye on my finger. Hey. Everything's okay? Seem to be fine just biting me. You little shit. Go on the couch. Now my hand is full of holes. Anyway. Yeah, but this is a great video overall. Depending on how many people watch it, maybe I will do more of, how do you call it, primers? Which he said that he's short of videos. Maybe I'll do more of that. I haven't. Xeno. Ow! Go away, Xena! Okay. He finally ran. Just a bit farther. God damn it. Ow. Everything hurts now. Thank you, anybody who watched this. I appreciate it a lot, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye. Have a great life, because one of us has to.